Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. Welcome to the channel, where we dive deep into the stories that shaped our world. Today, we're traveling back over 2,000 years to the heart of one of the greatest civilizations ever, Rome. This is the epic tale of how the Roman Empire rose to dominate the ancient world, and how it all came crashing down. Hey everyone! Today we're going to explore how Rome went from a small city-state to the superpower of the ancient world, only to eventually collapse under its own weight. Trust me, it's a wild ride. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming history breakdowns. Alright, let's jump right in. The rise of Rome. Our story begins in the 8th century BCE, in a small town on the banks of the Tiber River, Rome. According to legend, Rome was founded by the twins Romulus and Remus, raised by a she-wolf. Whether or not that's true, what we do know is that Rome quickly became a regional power through a mix of smart alliances, brutal conquests, and a knack for absorbing the best parts of other cultures. By the 4th century BCE, Rome had conquered most of the Italian peninsula, but they didn't stop there. Rome becomes an empire. So how does a small city-state in Italy end up ruling nearly the entire known world? It starts with expansion. After winning the Punic Wars against Carthage, Rome's biggest rival, the Romans controlled the Western Mediterranean. But it wasn't until Julius Caesar showed up that things really got interesting. Caesar was a brilliant general who expanded Rome's territory all the way to modern-day France, and even made a name for himself in Britain. But he wanted more than military glory. He wanted power. And that's when things got messy. In 49 BCE, Caesar famously crossed the Rubicon River, essentially declaring civil war on the Roman Republic. After defeating his rivals, Caesar declared himself dictator for life. But that life was cut short when he was assassinated by his own senators in 44 BCE. After Caesar's death, Rome was plunged into chaos. But out of that chaos emerged a new leader, Caesar's adopted heir, Augustus. And under Augustus, Rome transitioned from a republic to an empire. Augustus was the first Roman emperor, and he ruled over what's known as the Pax Romana, a 200-year period of peace and stability. Roman roads, aqueducts, and engineering marvels. This was Rome at its height. They built roads, aqueducts, and cities that connected the empire from Britain to Egypt. They had gladiators, chariot races, and enough public baths to keep everyone squeaky clean. Gladiators, the iconic warriors of ancient Rome. Their battles in the arena were as much a part of Roman life as politics, religion, and warfare. But who were these fierce fighters? And why did thousands of people gather to witness their brutal contests? Gladiators were not just warriors, but symbols. They represented strength, endurance, and the might of Rome itself. However, the reality of a gladiator's life was far from the glory that audiences saw. Gladiatorial games likely trace their roots back to Etruscan funeral traditions, where warriors fought to honor the dead. Over time, this ritual evolved into a form of public entertainment in Rome, attracting both common citizens and the elite. By the time of the Roman Empire, these contests became an integral part of Roman society. They were held in massive arenas, like the famous Colosseum, and sponsored by politicians hoping to gain favor with the people. Not all gladiators were the same. There were different classes of fighters, each with their own style of combat and specialized equipment. The Murmillo, heavily armed with a large shield and sword, was designed to overpower opponents with brute force. Then, there was the Retiarius equipped with a trident and net, relying on speed and agility to trap and disable enemies. The Thracian used a short curved sword called a sickle and a small shield, bringing a different approach to combat. These diverse styles made every match unpredictable and thrilling for the crowds. Most gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals. Forced into a life of violence, they trained in specialized schools called ludi, where they were conditioned for the brutal realities of combat. Training was relentless. Gladiators were not only taught how to fight, but how to entertain. The crowd wanted skill, spectacle, and blood. But not all gladiators were enslaved. Some were free men who volunteered for the arena, seeking fame, fortune, or simply a different life. A victorious gladiator could become a celebrity, adored by the masses and showered with wealth. The games were more than just fights. They were a grand spectacle. Gladiators fought not only each other, but also wild animals like lions, tigers, and bears, all for the entertainment of tens of life and death were at the discretion of the Roman crowd and the emperor. A defeated gladiator could be spared or sentenced to death based on the mood of the crowd and the decision of the host. As the Roman Empire began to decline, so did the games. The rise of Christianity, which viewed gladiatorial combat as immoral, led to the gradual end of this violent sport. By the 5th century AD, the era of the gladiators was over. But the legacy of the gladiators has lived on. Their story, full of bravery, tragedy, and survival against the odds, continues to captivate us. From history books to the silver screen, the gladiators of Rome remain a symbol of human endurance and a reminder of a time when life and death played out in the sands of the arena. Their struggles, their victories, and their defeats are a testament to a forgotten world. But in our imagination, the gladiators will always live on. The decline begins. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down. After centuries of dominance, cracks started to appear in the Roman Empire. By the 3rd century CE, Rome was struggling with internal conflicts, economic instability, and a series of incompetent or short-lived emperors. To make matters worse, they were being attacked on all sides by barbarian tribes, like the Goths and Vandals. The empire was simply too big, too diverse, and too difficult to manage. So, when exactly did the Roman Empire fall? Well, that's kind of a tricky question. While the Western Roman Empire officially fell in 476 CE, when the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was overthrown, the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, continued for nearly another 1,000 years. But most historians agree that 476 marks the end of Rome's glory days, the legacy of Rome. Though the empire fell, Rome's influence lived on. From its legal systems and engineering marvels to its culture and language, Rome's fingerprints are all over modern Western civilization. Even today, we still feel its impact, from the words we speak to the architecture of our cities. So there you have it, the rise and fall of one of the greatest empires in history, from a small city-state to a sprawling empire, and finally, to ruins. Rome's story is one of ambition, power, and legacy. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you're new here, subscribe for more deep dives into the most fascinating stories from history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.